Welcome to the Book Prism. Today we're exploring The Art of Saying No by Damon Zahariades, a guide to setting boundaries and reclaiming your time. Ever find yourself overwhelmed saying yes to things you don't want to do? You're not alone. In this video, we'll break down why it's so hard to say no, how it affects your life, and most importantly, how to confidently say no without guilt. Stick around to learn how you can free yourself from unnecessary obligations and focus on what truly matters. Let's get started. Chapter 1. Why we struggle to say no. Let's start with why saying no feels so difficult. Damon Zahariades explains that our struggle often stems from a mix of fear and social conditioning. First, there's the fear of conflict. We don't want to upset others or cause tension. Then comes the fear of rejection, worrying that saying no might damage relationships or make us less likable. And let's not forget the guilt factor. Many of us feel obligated to help, even at the expense of our own time and energy. Society often praises selflessness, making us believe that saying yes equals being a good person. But here's the truth. Constantly saying yes doesn't just hurt you. It can lead to burnout, resentment, and less authentic relationships. This sets the stage for why mastering the art of saying no is essential for a healthier, happier life. Chapter 2. The benefits of saying no. Saying no isn't just about avoiding obligations. It's about creating space for what truly matters. Damon Zahariades highlights several life-changing benefits of learning to say no. First, it helps you reclaim your time and energy. When you stop overcommitting, you can focus on your priorities and invest in activities that align with your goals. Second, saying no builds self-respect. Each time you set a boundary, you reinforce your own worth and show others that your time and needs matter. It also strengthens relationships. While it might feel counterintuitive, being honest about your limits leads to more authentic connections. People will appreciate your transparency rather than a begrudging yes that breeds resentment. Ultimately, saying no is about regaining control and living intentionally, putting your values and well-being first. For people pleasers, saying no can feel nearly impossible. Damon Zahariades dives deep into the psychology behind this struggle in The Art of Saying No. Chapter 3. Why saying no is difficult for people pleasers. People pleasers are driven by a strong desire to make others happy. They often say yes out of fear of disappointing someone, being seen as selfish, or damaging a relationship. Over time, this creates a habit of overcommitting and putting others' needs above their own. This mindset is often reinforced by the belief that self-worth is tied to how much you do for others. But Zahariades points out that constantly prioritizing others can lead to exhaustion, resentment, and even a loss of identity. The key takeaway? People pleasers must learn to value their own time and energy as much as they value others. Saying no isn't selfish. It's a form of self-respect and a necessary step toward a balanced life. Chapter 4. The simple formula for saying no. In Chapter 4, Damon Zahariades shares a simple formula for saying no confidently, and it's easier than you might think. The key is to be polite yet firm. First, acknowledge the request. You don't have to jump straight into the no. A simple, "I appreciate you thinking of me," works well. Then deliver your no clearly. Use straightforward language like, "Unfortunately, I can't commit to that right now," or "I'm not able to help with this." No need to over-explain or apologize excessively. Finally, if it makes sense, offer an alternative. For example, "I can't help with that, but maybe that can assist you." Here you can use the name of the person, or "I'm not available this week, but I could help next month." This formula allows you to say no in a way that's polite, respectful, and without guilt, so you can keep your boundaries intact while maintaining good relationships. Saying no to family and friends can feel especially challenging, but it's a crucial skill to avoid being overwhelmed. Damon Zahariades emphasizes that it's essential to protect your time, even with loved ones. Chapter 5. How to say no to family and friends. When saying no to family or friends, be honest but compassionate. You don't need to give a lengthy explanation, but you can offer a reason that respects both your needs and their feelings. For example, "I really wish I could help, but I have a lot on my plate right now," is both honest and considerate. It's also important to set clear boundaries. Let them know your limits ahead of time so they understand where you stand. If you're frequently asked for favors, it's okay to establish that your time is precious and not unlimited. Finally, don't fall for guilt trips. If they pressure you, stand firm in your decision. Remind yourself that you're not obligated to say yes to everything just because of your relationship. By setting these boundaries, you maintain healthier, more balanced relationships. In the workplace, saying no can be tricky, especially when it comes to colleagues or bosses. But Damon Zahariades outlines some strategies to help you navigate these situations without compromising your professionalism. Chapter 6. How to Say No in the Workplace. First, when saying no to a boss, approach it thoughtfully. You can express gratitude for the opportunity, then clearly explain your current workload. For example, I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'm already committed to a few high-priority tasks right now, and I can't take on more. Be assertive but respectful, showing that your decision is based on the need to maintain quality and meet existing responsibilities. With colleagues, it's important to be polite yet firm. You don't have to say yes just because someone asked for help. Offer alternatives, like suggesting someone else who might be available, or stating when you can help, if you genuinely have the capacity. By being honest and clear about your limits, you can maintain your productivity and avoid burnout without damaging workplace relationships. Chapter 7. How to Say No to Social Invitations. Saying no to social invitations can feel uncomfortable, but it's an important part of maintaining a balanced life. Damon Zahariades explains that the key is to be polite, but also to honor your own time and energy. When you receive an invitation, acknowledge the invitation first. You can say something like, "Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it." This shows gratitude without immediately agreeing. Next, deliver your no clearly but kindly. For example, "I won't be able to make it this time," or "I have other commitments that day." You don't need to offer a detailed explanation. A simple, honest reason is enough. If you feel guilty, Zahariades suggests reframing the situation. It's okay to say no in order to preserve your well-being. You don't have to attend every event to maintain your friendships. And remember, offering an alternative like, "I can't make it this time, but I'd love to catch up another time," can keep the connection strong without overcommitting. Ultimately, saying no to social invitations helps you stay true to your priorities and avoids the trap of people-pleasing. Chapter 8. Overcoming the Guilt of Saying. One of the hardest parts of saying no is overcoming the guilt that often follows. Damon Zahariades acknowledges this challenge and offers practical ways to reframe your thinking. First, understand that saying no is not a sign of selfishness. It's a form of self-respect. By setting boundaries, you're prioritizing your time and well-being, which is necessary for a healthy, balanced life. Zahariades suggests changing your perspective on guilt. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid, recognize it as a sign that you're breaking free from unhealthy patterns, like people-pleasing. The more you practice saying no, the less guilt you'll feel. Another tip is to remind yourself that saying yes when you're overwhelmed only leads to resentment and burnout. By saying no, you're being more honest with yourself and others, which ultimately strengthens relationships. Overcoming guilt takes time, but each time you say no with confidence, you'll reinforce that setting boundaries is a necessary and positive step in caring for yourself. Chapter 9. How to Avoid Being Manipulated. In Chapter 9, Damon Zahariades tackles the tricky issue of manipulation, how others might pressure you into saying yes when you really want to say no. Recognizing manipulative behavior is the first step. Zahariades points out that manipulators often use guilt, flattery, or urgency to make you feel obligated to agree. For example, phrases like, "I'm counting on you," or "I really need your help," are common tactics used to make you feel responsible for someone else's needs. To avoid being manipulated, trust your instincts. If you feel pressured, take a step back and assess whether the request aligns with your priorities. You're allowed to say no without feeling obligated to explain yourself in detail. A great tactic Zahariades recommends is using delayed responses. If you're unsure about a request, simply say, "Let me think about it, and I'll get back to you." This gives you time to evaluate the situation without feeling rushed. The key is to stay firm and clear about your boundaries. Manipulative people will often try to guilt trip or push you, but by recognizing their tactics and remaining resolute, you can confidently say no without compromising your values. Chapter 10. Putting it all together. In Chapter 10, Damon Zahariades brings everything together by highlighting the importance of consistency when it comes to saying no. It's not just about applying the techniques once, it's about making them a regular part of your life. Zahariades reminds us that setting boundaries isn't a one-time effort. The more you practice saying no, the easier and more natural it becomes. He encourages readers to start small, begin by saying no in situations that feel less risky or intense, then gradually work up to more challenging ones. He also stresses that self-care is key. Saying no is ultimately about taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical health. The more you respect your own boundaries, the more others will respect them too. By consistently applying these strategies, acknowledging requests, being clear in your responses, offering alternatives, and standing firm, you'll gradually gain more control over your time and live with greater intentionality. Zahariades wraps up the chapter by reminding us that the ability to say no is a skill that empowers you to live life on your own terms. If you want to dive deeper into mastering the art of saying no and start applying these strategies in your own life, grab a copy of The Art of Saying No by Damon Zahariades. I've included the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more insightful book summaries.